Okay, let's dive into a story that completely reshaped our world. And it's not just about exploration and adventure. It's about ambition, it's about brutality, and, believe it or not, it's about spices.
So how did a simple craving for things like pepper and cinnamon kickstart a whole new age of empires and, war? Well, that's what we're going to break down. We're going to see how this obsession with spice led to a world dominated by naval power, colonialism, and a violent redrawing of the entire map.
First things first, to really get a grip on Vasco da Gama, you have to understand the world he lived in. And that world was absolutely desperate for spices.
You know, back in the 15th century, spices weren't just something you sprinkled on your food. No way. Think of them like the oil of today. They were crucial for preserving meat. Remember, no refrigerators. They were used as medicine, and honestly, they were a massive status symbol. If you had spices, you were rich. The problem was, for Europe, getting them was a huge headache.
Okay, and this right here shows you exactly why it was such a problem. Just follow the chain. The spices start way over in Southeast Asia. Then, Arab merchants who control the Indian Ocean take over. After that, they pass through the Middle East where Islamic empires tax them heavily. And then, finally, Venetian and Genoese merchants in Europe get their hands on them and create a monopoly. So at every single link in that chain, the price just skyrockets. By the time that pepper got to, say, Portugal, it was astronomically expensive.
And for centuries, this was the map everyone in Europe believed in. It's based on the ancient geographer Ptolemy. And look, it shows the Indian Ocean as a giant, landlocked lake. So according to the best knowledge they had, sailing around Africa to get to India? Impossible. Just couldn't be done. It was a dead end.
But then, things started to change. New maps, like this Frau Mara map, started popping up. These were based on newer accounts from travelers, and they dared to suggest something radical. What if Ptolemy was wrong? What if the ocean was open? What if you could sail around Africa? And that one little question, well, it was about to change everything for a small country on the edge of the Atlantic.
All right, so that brings us to Portugal's audacious gamble. This is the story of how one small nation looked at that map, looked at that ocean, and decided to bet everything it had on finding a way through.
I mean, think about Portugal's position. They're kind of stuck, right? They've got a powerful Spain on one side and the massive, scary Atlantic Ocean on the other. So what do? They lean into it. They turn that ocean from a barrier into a highway. For decades, the Portuguese government poured money into a systematic project, explore the coast of Africa, bit by bit. They developed incredible new ships like the Caravel. And the whole goal, the big prize, was to completely bypass that old, expensive land route and get to the spices themselves.
So, you've got this massive, high-stakes national project. Who do you pick to lead the final, most dangerous voyage? Well, this is where we get to the man himself, Vasco da Gama. And you gotta understand, Portugal wasn't looking for some romantic, swashbuckling adventurer. No, they needed a disciplined state official, a ruthless executor, someone who would follow orders without hesitation. Da Gama wasn't a discoverer in the romantic sense. He was an instrument of the state, sent to get a job done no matter what it took.
And right here, this is the other side of the story. Because while Portugal saw their loyal official, the people he encountered in the Indian Ocean, they saw something very different. Arabic histories from the time don't call him an explorer. They call him a safah. That word means butcher. For them, this wasn't about trade. This was a crusade. This was a holy war that had just sailed right into their world.
Okay, so the man is chosen, the ships are ready, and what they launched next was without a doubt one of the most ambitious voyages in all of human history.
Just look at this timeline. The whole thing took 2 years. They leave Lisbon in July 1497. By November, they make it around the Cape of Good Hope, incredibly dangerous waters. Then they work their way up the coast of East Africa, dealing with all these established trading cities. They even hire famous local pilot Ahmad ibn Majid to guide them across the vast Indian Ocean. And then finally, in May 1498, they make landfall in Calicut, India. They'd reached the source.
50%. Just let that sink in for a second. Roughly half of the men who set out on that voyage never saw Portugal again. Most of them died from scurvy on the long, brutal trip home. The human cost was just staggering.
But getting to India, that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just the beginning of a whole new and very violent chapter.
So Da Gama sails into Calicut, and he does not find some quiet, undeveloped village. Not at all. He finds the vibrant, cosmopolitan hub of the entire global spice trade.
This was a city that was wealthier, more complex, and way more sophisticated than the Portuguese were ready for.
And his attempt at diplomacy? It was an absolute train wreck. The gifts he brought from the Portuguese king, we're talking some striped cloth, a few hats, some wash basins. They were basically laughed at. The local ruler, the Zamarin of Calicut, was used to getting gifts of gold and silver. So right from the start, the established traders there looked at these Portuguese sailors and didn't see equals. They saw unsophisticated, maybe even barbaric intruders.
And this quote, this is absolutely crucial. When trade didn't work out, da Gama and his men fell back on their other primary objective. You see, he basically said their mission was to find Muslims, and if they couldn't, then they'd go to India. The crusade came first. So if they couldn't get what they wanted through trade, they would take it by force.
So the Portuguese response wasn't more diplomacy, it was pure terror, designed to shock and awe. On his later voyages, da Gama did some truly horrific things. He captured a ship full of pilgrims coming back from Mecca, men, women, and children, and burned it, killing everyone on board. He captured local fishermen, cut off their hands, noses, and ears, and sent the body parts to the ruler of Calicut as a message. He bombarded the city from his ships. This wasn't about trade anymore. It was about forcing the entire region to submit to Portuguese power through sheer brutality.
So all of this incredible achievement mixed with this unspeakable violence, it leaves us with two totally different legacies, two completely different stories about the exact same man.
And this chart just lays it out, side by side. In Europe, especially Portugal, he's a national hero, the guy who opened the sea route, broke the spice monopoly, and founded a global empire. But in the East, he's remembered as the man who kicked off centuries of European colonialism. He's the butcher of Muslims, a brutal conqueror, a symbol of violent invasion.
So that leaves us with this really tough question, doesn't it? How do you judge someone who literally redrew the map of the world, but did it with a sword in his hand? There's no denying his impact. He changed history, but his achievements came at a horrifying cost. Thinking about how we should remember him, well, it forces us to think about what we value today and how we tell the story of our past.